witches, and welcome back to Activist Witch, where we discuss witchcraft and activism. You can call me Isha, but pronounce her she, they. And in today's video, we're gonna quickly look over what is the best time to cast a spell in the month of August 2026. But before we get started, let me remind you that I've opened a Ko-fi and now a Patreon too, if you're more comfortable with that platform. And if you come there, you're basically helping us subsidize and keep our educational content free for everyone. And there's goodies in it for you too, like Discord, audios, extra videos, lots of stuff. So if you decide to support us there, thank you so very much. It would have bothered me immensely to miss the first Almanac video since April 2025, so there's not going to be much here. We're just going to go very, very quickly through the electional astrology, which is, again, how happy are the classical planets for us to work with their energy. And August, there's a lot of happiness going on. In August, we have 5 planets that are super happy. We can work with the Sun, we can sort of still work with Jupiter, and we can work with Mars, with Venus, and with Mercury. And by the way, if you are a dissident on Ko-fi or Patreon, you actually get full-on PDFs with the long explanations of the planets that are happy to work with you this month, and also spells ideas. So, not too shabby, is it? And if you'd like to learn how to do this yourself, at the end there's also an introductory guide to electional astrology, because I know that I really got into it. The first book on witchcraft that I read, probably still back in 2022, said something about, oh, and if you're doing a money spell, why don't you do it in the hour of Jupiter? And I was like, what? And from that I went, oh, not only there are hours, but the hours have scores, because it depends how happy a planet is. And we're here with the scores, basically. So, no news on the fact that the Sun is really, really happy in August. Why? Because July to August, the Sun is in Leo, the sign of Leo. And the Sun rules Leo. Because the Sun rules Leo, Leo is called the Sun's domicile or rulership. And because of that, when a planet is in its rulership, it gets a +5. But most days of August, actually, the Sun is +8. And that's because the Sun also rules the triplicity of fire, meaning that when the Sun is in a sign of fire, which are Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries, it also gets a +3 because it rules the triplicity during the day. So between the hours of sunrise and sunset. So up until the 22nd of August, if you work with the Sun between sunrise and sunset, the Sun has a score of +8 according to William Lilly and Ptolemy. Ideally, you work with a planet when it's a +5 and over, so it's really the time to work with the Sun. Also, for a last whiplash, the Sun is still happy on the 23rd and 24th of August, even if it moves in Virgo. Why is that? Well, the Sun rules the first phase of Virgo. The phase are the first 10 degrees. Well, the phases are the intervals of 10 degrees in every sign. So 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30. The first phase, the first 10 degrees of Virgo, are ruled by the Sun. The phases are just a +1. However, whilst the Sun moves into Virgo, the ruler of Virgo, Mercury, is in Leo. That brings a mutual reception, which basically means that the planets swap house and they are happy and they still get the score as if they were in their own house. So Mercury suddenly gets a +5, which we'll look in a second. But the Sun gets the +5 of Mercury being in Leo as if the Sun was still in Leo because he is in the house of Mercury of Virgo. So for those 2 days, the Sun still has a +6. And at that point, it has a +6 even in the evenings, in case you want to work with the Sun in the evening. Because in the evenings, otherwise, while the Sun was in Leo, it would go down to +5, because again, it rules the triplicity, but during the day. Ideal days to work with the Sun, of course, are the day of the Sun, Sunday. So Sunday the 2nd, Sunday the 9th, and Sunday the 16th, during the day, are your best chances to work with the Sun. Spell areas under the Sun that could use the help of such a planet would be anything that has to do with ego, health, success, wealth, gaining attention, because the Sun literally shines on you, getting unstuck and road openers. And the funny thing is that actually last year I did a road opener and remove obstacles with the Sun in, I think, August, exactly because it was very well dignified. And after years and years of hesitation, finally I studied and then passed my theory test for driving. So, you know, it's a good thing, isn't it? Next we have Venus. Venus wasn't too happy in July, but she's going to be happy in August, because in August, on the 7th, she gets into her own domicile of Libra, so she has a +5. She gets an occasional +7, actually, of which there is a Friday. So your best day to work with Venus in August is going to be Friday the 14th, because she gets a +7. And despite the idea that Venus is just about love or self-love, there's so much more to Venus, because Venus is the lesser benefic. Venus is the kind of planet you work with when you want to do something but Jupiter is not too happy. Not quite the case here, but still, anything that has to do with community, and to a degree with prosperity when it comes from work or community or people that are around you, Venus is your girl. Anything that has to do with inspiration, art, community, harmony, and wealth when related to people. Then we have Mars. Mars hasn't been happy in a while, and we like Mars despite how some people might feel about it, because, you know, Mars is the lesser malefic, and people get stuck on these things, and wrong. All the planets are very useful, and they have different domains that they overlook. Mars being the lesser malefic when Saturn is the greater malefic, but Saturn is very, very slow. And Saturn hasn't been happy in like a year, because he last left Aquarius, which he rules, like a year or something ago, and he's not going to be happy for a while still. Like, it's currently, I think, at -9. You don't quite work with Saturn now. However, what are you working with when you want to do banishing, when you want to do protection, when you want to do anything that is in the realm of Saturn? Well, Mars is here. In the domain of Mars, you don't only have action, courage, ambition, competition, conquering the enemy, but you also have protection. Protection from attacks specifically is one of the Saturn pentacles of Solomon. So, you know, if you want to work protection and Saturn is not exactly in a good place right now, or it hasn't been, or it won't be for a while, Mars could be a good ally to have. It literally has some spells that are the return to sender. The classical return to senders are under Mars. So it doesn't last much, because Mars gets a good score just because it has a mutual reception with the moon. And the moon goes fast, which is why we usually don't talk about her here. You're always going to find the moon being happy every month when she goes in Cancer. However, this month, while Mars is in Cancer, so the moon domicile, the moon is in Scorpio, which is ruled by Mars. They swap house, and for literally 3 days, amongst which we are lucky enough there is a Tuesday, the day of Mars, there's going to be a moment in which Mars is at +6. So if you want to work with Mars in the month of August, you can on Tuesday the 18th. Then we have Mercury, that starts being happy from the 23rd onwards, because exactly as I said before, the Sun gets into Virgo, which is the domain of Mercury, while Mercury is still in Leo. But no worries, just after a moment, because after Leo there's Virgo, Mercury gets to Virgo. And Mercury and Virgo have a very specific kind of relationship. Not only it's the sign that Mercury rules, it's also the sign that is the exaltation. The exaltation is just one step under rule, and it's still a +4. So for a series of events, Mercury gets at points at +11 during August. And again, we are lucky enough, because one of the days that Mercury is +11 is going to be a Wednesday, the day of Mercury. So the day that you want to work with Mercury in August is going to be Wednesday, the 26th of August, which is going to be +11. The domain of Mercury, despite what you would think that is just about communication, there's a lot of road openers there as well, by the way. But there's magnetism, there's problem solving, there's writing and literary skills, knowledge and communication, door openers, commerce, and truth revealing if you need to find the truth about something. So especially after the Mercury retrograde that we had in July, if you need something in that area, Wednesday, the 26th of August is going to be your moment. And finally, a word for Jupiter. Now, I've gone on and on and on about the fact that, no, when Jupiter will leave Cancer, what will we do? Nothing until 2031, when Jupiter actually gets to Sagittarius. Not quite, I'll admit, not quite. Jupiter is currently in Leo. To give you an idea of what Jupiter in Leo feels like, Jupiter in Leo is the Six of Wands. The Six of Wands, the card of Tarot. Jupiter in Leo is the second decan of Leo, and that's why it's the Six of Wands in Tarot. And guess what? In August, not only Jupiter, which rules the triplicity of fire in the night, so kinda okay, kinda happy, gets a +3, but you know, we ideally work with a planet when it's +5 and over. +4, I will close an eye, fine. But +3, not exactly ideal. But don't you worry, because from the 14th of August, Jupiter enters the second decan of Leo. And the second decan of Leo is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter in Leo, Six of Wands. So it gets, on top of the +3, when it rules the night of fire, it also gets a +1, because it's in its own phase, in its own decan. And so in the evenings from the 14th of August onwards, you get a +4. Again, is it the perfect +5? Not quite. But think about when Jupiter was in Cancer and it was a +4, and we were still working with it because it had this expansion, especially for what had to do with people and family, because Cancer. Well, think about Jupiter in Leo, Six of Wands. Anything that has to do with success and recognition and having attention on you, the Six of Wands, that would be a spell to work with Jupiter now that Jupiter is literally in its decan of the Six of Wands. That was it. I wanted to be super quick because this is also getting to you late, because I'm filming this in August. And usually you get these before we get to August. Life is hard. But I hope that this gets to you so that you can still get ideas about what are the best spells that you can cast in August, how the planets can help you in August 2026. And hey, if you find it useful and you have spare coin, do come over. Like, actually, you can also do one-off donations on Coffee. So if you just have a $5 to throw away, I'll take that. But you know, if you want to become a steady producer of our videos, thank you so much. Do come to Coffee and Patreon, and you'll find us most days on the Discord community that we have there. So hopefully we can give you something back for allowing us to still make videos for everyone. I also indeed still do tarot readings on my Coffee. I actually have added a new edition. I have the 4 cards, the 7 cards, and now I calculate your birth cards if you'd like that, if you're more inclined towards that, which is usually 2 to 3. It depends on what your date of birth is. I'll leave all the links in the description below. And until the next time, I really do hope that we can hex the patriarchy together, because there's need for it.